Alright, what's going on, everybody? Welcome back to the third episode of Optimus Weekly, and today we're going to have a very interesting discussion about artificial intelligence, the ramifications that it may have on society, content creation, a bunch of different things, artistry, doesn't really matter, we're going to be talking about it. So, of course, before we get too far into anything here, a few things I do want to go ahead and say. So, first, I have been looking into, of course, expanding the podcast to Spotify, Apple, other platforms, of course, where you could obviously take a look at the podcast, and I will be getting to that. It is a little confusing. It's not necessarily like a YouTube, where you just create an account at one of these places, and next thing you know, you just kind of upload it there. A lot of these places, they're a little bit, the process, I guess, is different for podcasting, so still getting kind of used to that. I am hoping that episode 4 will be the first one that's out on everything. The moment that I upload this one, actually, I'm going to start getting on that and trying to get that figured out. Next thing I want to go ahead and mention, I actually just put out my first piece of writing of the year. I just started a novelette series, which is called Astral's Edge. It is a futuristic sci-fi series starring yourself. Just kidding. It's me, Optimus Poe, right? And I just go around. I'm going to be a bounty hunter. I'm going to travel through space, and I'm going to fuck shit up, right? So the first volume of that is already available. I don't have a set schedule that I'm going to release volumes of this series at, because obviously, the writing process, it's not necessarily like, I guess, the video process. It takes a little bit more time. There's a lot more weird elements that aren't necessarily there for video production. So I am going to try and get that out as frequently as I can. First volume is already out, kind of establishing everything. So go ahead and check that out if you don't mind. That is available for digital download exclusively through my online store for now. Every 10 volumes, though, I am going to do a physical release. Since they're about 50 to 60 pages on average, a 10-volume book would be about 500-600 pages. So at that point, when we hit those 10 milestones, that's when I'm going to start doing physical releases. So if that's what you're interested in, make sure to stay tuned and wait for that. But that would be a huge way to support me. I have really enjoyed, obviously, writing in the past, and it's something that I enjoy creating outside of videos. So if you don't mind, go ahead and checking that out and supporting me. You can do so, I believe, by clicking the video. It'll say like products. You can click it and see it from there. Or you can click the link down in the description to go ahead and go over there. And with that being said, we're going to go ahead and jump straight into the conversation. So today I want to talk about artificial intelligence. I feel like this has been something that I've kind of already talked about a lot recently in my normal content, obviously with the whole Quebblecop AI situation that's been unfolding. In fact, just yesterday I uploaded like my third video kind of detailing that whole saga. And artificial intelligence, it's been something that has been very controversial for years now. I mean, even before the rise of ChatGPT and all these other platforms, I guess, that people are using to do all kinds of different things with now, with artificial intelligence, right? I mean, we had people who were voicing their concerns years ago with this whole process, right? Talking about how they think that if artificial intelligence evolves to a certain point, that it could perhaps outgrow the need for humanity and, obviously get pretty violent with us and whatnot. There's a lot of like sci-fi movies and stories that have kind of talked about the rise of artificial intelligence, and you see things on social media like that all the time, right? And I think that it's gotten to a point where the average person who doesn't really have maybe a ton of exposure with artificial intelligence in the first place, realistically, there's a lot of confusion in those people now. They don't really understand the everyday use for AI. They don't understand why the AI revolution is actually so important, what it's really going to detail. There's a lot of different variables. I mean, it's one of those complex subjects that you can't really just cover in like a 5 to 10 minute video. I mean, you could if you really wanted to, but I feel like you'd have to really kind of omit a ton of context and a ton of information. The truth of the matter is the artificial intelligence revolution that we're kind of seeing right now is something that has been on the horizon for a long time. I mean, even in like the 2000s and probably in the 1990s, people were already starting to realize that the future was going to be a lot more automated. I mean, that's just been kind of the entirety of human history at this point, right? That's been something that we've seen in a ton of different contexts throughout our lives, right? Automation has really become such a dominant thing that we're even talking about how is AI going to affect the economy? Are people going to lose their jobs? What's going to be the next step forward, I guess, for society when dealing with something like artificial intelligence? But overall, I think there's a ton of misconceptions about what artificial intelligence is, what kind of, usefulness that it can serve to the everyday person. And a lot of that is due to social media. That's something that we see kind of a pattern of. Social media has a tendency to kind of ruin the discussion around a lot of things, and that's just the sad reality of it. I mean, it doesn't matter. It doesn't even have to be just about AI. You try to talk about damn near anything on Twitter or Facebook or any of these platforms, and it just gets completely ruined by part people who don't understand what they're talking about, yet they're speaking anyway, part people who are conspiracy theorists, part people who are obviously shilling whatever the new trend is. It's a clusterfuck, let's just say it. But I kind of want to start off just talking about some of the more prevalent AIs that I've used, you know, my experience with them, and kind of how I can see them being used on a daily basis, especially by people like me. I mean, obviously I'm a content creator online. Some of the AI that I'll be discussing here are more primarily focused for people like myself because they're tools for online creatives and everyday people who are, you know, just trying to do whatever it is that these tools provide access to, right? So the one I think everybody knows the most about and actually probably has used the most at this point is ChatGPT. Now, ChatGPT is an internet-trained, basically, artificial intelligence that can do a ton of different tasks. I mean, there's people who use ChatGPT to write their homework essays. There's people who use ChatGPT to create outlines for their books or movies, whatever it may be. You know, that's controversial, but there's people who do it. There's even been cases of like lawyers using ChatGPT to try and write defenses for them. I believe there was a case, I don't remember exactly where it was, where a lawyer tried to use ChatGPT to like basically write his legal response in court, which would cite a court case that like was supposed to be in favor of their legal argument. And funny enough, it turned out that once it was presented in court, the court case that was actually mentioned within the document written by ChatGPT was entirely made up. It was a fictional case, it didn't exist, and this lawyer basically at that point cited a court case that never actually happened as a defense, right? And that was kind of like a viral, funny story that highlights the obvious shortcomings with artificial intelligence. But obviously, I've used ChatGPT. A ton of you have also used ChatGPT. I've also used one a lot of you probably don't know about. It's called Remini Web, Remini Web, Remini Web. And essentially, this is an AI online that you can use, and it basically touches up photos. So like for me, for instance, when I create thumbnails for my YouTube videos, sometimes I'll look up like a reference or something online, or like an image that I kind of want to base the thumbnail off of, right? And it can turn out grainy, it can turn out blurry, maybe the resolution doesn't exactly match up, so when it's actually rescaled in Photoshop or whatever, the quality comes out pretty shitty. So Remini Web, what it does is you upload the picture, the AI touches up the image, you know, maybe recolors or like, you know, smooths areas out, and it can really crispen up and enhance the look of images. And I've used that probably 3 dozen or so times at this point for images and thumbnails to like kind of make them actually appear better, make them crisper, make them cleaner, the details better. That way it makes a better thumbnail. You know, I don't want to upload a thumbnail that's just completely blurry, completely shitty. You can't really tell what it is or like what's going on, right? I used a voice AI called 11 Labs when I was making a lot of the like AI presidential videos, and it's one of those like voice synthesizer things where you can like type in or whatever, you could type in like whatever you want it to say, and you can like sample people's voices and whatnot and create digital cloned voices. And that's how I did a lot of the like AI president videos and whatnot. There's AI out there that people, especially who do like YouTube or TikTok and podcasts like this, can use. And essentially you can like upload a URL of your video on YouTube and it'll go through and the AI will generate a bunch of like YouTube shorts or TikTok clips based off the best moments of that video for you, right? So that doesn't even begin to scratch the surface of what artificial intelligence can do. I mean, it seems like every application, every company, everything really is trying to go down this road of introducing artificial intelligence. I knew it was really over with when Snapchat decided to bring out that whole My AI thing, which actually recently freaked a bunch of people out because the AI posted a like weird image to its story, and it was pretty much of nothing. It was like colored pixels or something, but the AI accidentally posted a story somehow, right? So that was freaking people out. And you know, when you see things like that, it gets to that point where you kind of realize, like, no matter whether or not I like artificial intelligence, it's pretty much here to stay. There's really no getting around this one. Like, that shit's not going away anytime soon. And that's kind of the way I feel about it, right? Like, we are never going to live in a world without artificial intelligence again, at least in modern society. It will continue to evolve. They will continue to bring out new AI that revolutionize everything, new updates that make previous AI better. better. Now, when people say things like, oh, we're essentially looking at like the modern day technological revolution, like the internet, right? Like this is our generation's internet or whatever, right? I can see why people say that. I can see where that sentiment kind of comes from. But I feel like it's very disingenuous to compare the two because they're not really the same thing. They don't serve the same purpose. They don't really have the same scale in terms of like usability. And ultimately, just comparing things for the sake of comparing things because they were two, I guess, like revolutionary, groundbreaking technologies, it doesn't really do them justice, you know? That's like saying, oh, the internet, it's the modern day automobile. Like, okay, yeah, I guess. To who? I don't know, man, but for a lot of people, right, this whole AI takeover, if you will, has become like a very sore spot. And why wouldn't it, right? I mean, you see a lot of the news reports about artificial intelligence. You see a lot of the like viral stories, I guess, kind of surrounding it. And you hear a lot of really creepy, scary, you know, dystopian things in general about artificial intelligence. Oh, it's coming for your job. In 10 years, nobody's going to have a fucking job because everything's going to be done by artificial intelligence. If you work in a factory right now, you're fucked. The robots are going to have your job. And I get it. I really do, because the truth of the matter is artificial intelligence will be replacing a lot of people. I mean, it sounds pretty bad to say, and a lot of people aren't comfortable hearing it, and they don't want to admit it, but that is reality, you know, that's the way the world works. That's the way things are going. I mean, the truth of the matter is some jobs are just so easy to replicate that artificial intelligence can do that job. I mean, a lot of like virtual assistants, you know, people who are like assisting other people online or like generic writers and shit, they're seeing some problems, right? Call centers, a lot of that I feel like could be handled by artificial intelligence. There's tons of jobs. If we really went through them all and we really started breaking everything down and trying to figure every last little detail out, we could really go through it all. And probably millions of people's jobs would be at risk, just in the basic form of artificial intelligence, not even anything that might be developed over the next 10 to 20, 30, whatever years, right? Just today, you could take a good portion of people out of society, out of the workforce, with AI. Now, the issue is obviously a lot of AI right now, they're not really perfected. They're not in a good state, you know. Even like ChatGPT, that's the one that everyone kind of like heralds as the revolutionary one, as like the best, most like well-rounded one. And even it makes wacky, goofy errors all the time. Like I said just a minute ago with the whole lawyer case, right? Like that kind of thing happens pretty frequently. I mean, you have to be very careful about using results from ChatGPT because it's prone to basically using misinformation. Sometimes it's once again been caught coming up with random details and like making shit up on the spot, all kinds of different things. There's even been exposure to political bias. There's even now been recent reports stating that ChatGPT tends to lean a little bit more liberal politically when it generates outcomes or whatever when people kind of prompt it to. Now, I think that's kind of to be expected in all reality. I feel like that was kind of the way things were going to go, but you see people talking about this, right? Freaking out about it, making points about it, and I get it, right? Like it's a concerning topic. I mean, we're talking about something that could replace people's jobs, replace their utility, things like that. That's the kind of stuff that people don't like. But that's the reality of the world we live in, man. Like that's where everything is going technologically. And, you know, for these businesses, it makes sense, right? If you're a Fortune 500 company and I guess like your financials guy comes in, he throws the report down on your desk and, you know, you're looking at the numbers and you can save 40% of payroll by eliminating 50% of the workforce and replacing them with AI that will give you the same results. Like, how many companies do you think are going to stand around and be like, fuck it, let's stick with the humans, you know? Let's keep Bill, Jill, and Bob there. They don't care about that. It's not about whether or not people are doing the job. I think the vast majority of corporations really couldn't care less. Like, if it's a robot that they don't have to keep happy, they don't have to give benefits to, they don't have to really pay, the only real cost is like maintenance and things like that, a lot of businesses would be stupid to not do that. But for everyday people, that's a pretty big concern because, you know, especially unskilled laborers and shit like that, who their job is, maybe that's the best that they can do. That's their best opportunity in life. If they're one of these people who are on the chopping block for a couple lines of code, you can really see why they'd be kind of mad and worried and pissed off all at once. So even with all that being said, though, I feel like a lot of people ignore the very good outcomes that artificial intelligence could bring. Like I said, there's a couple of tools that I use pretty regularly for content creation and for my job here on YouTube And it's really helped me in the long run. It's really helped me do a lot of things. Now, I'm one of these people, right? I'm about more of the utility. Like, what way do you utilize this technology? Which way do you find a way to make it be ingenious, right? Because I feel like there's a ton of these people who really support artificial intelligence. And maybe they're not even inherently wrong about what they're saying, but they're so giddy and hyped up about the prospect of the new technology. They're so excited at the idea of being on the forefront of something that they are just like very blatantly overlooking a lot of the shortcomings and the pitfalls that also come with artificial intelligence. I mean, once again, these things aren't perfect. It's not like you can expect 100% accuracy out of a ChatGPT report, right? That's just not the reality of how that works. So, but you got people, especially I've been seeing it a lot on like Twitter, or as we'll all call it now, X, okay? Over on X, right? You got a lot of these guys who I feel like about a year and a half ago were really big into like cryptocurrency and NFTs, and that was going to be the new futuristic wave or whatever, right? But a lot of them, it seems like as those ships have sunk over time, they're kind of like jumping ship now, right? They're, oh, AI, that's the new way forward. That's going to be what makes me a fucking cajillionaire like my idol Elon Musk. I think really that's a lot of the problem right there, is these people, they're excited for the prospect of artificial intelligence and like the cool things it can do, but a lot of them, they really only care if there's money involved. Like these people who are making threads, you know, you'll scroll through Twitter and you'll see some random thread these days where it's some, you know, once again, some goofball who 8 months ago would have been shilling some fucking shitcoin, and you know, well, I was down bad too, making $300 a month, but then I learned how to use ChatGPT, and here's how you can use ChatGPT in 5 easy steps to make $1 billion. You could be just like me. Now, obviously, these people are probably not making money through artificial intelligence. And the reason that is because a good portion of money making through AI right now takes at least a little bit of ingenuity, takes a little bit of like creativity, maybe business knowledge, right? Like you can't just be some fucking moron. And that's the problem. A lot of these guys, you know, they'll give you these tips. Oh, we'll just open ChatGPT and ask it 50 ways to make money, as if, you know, ChatGPT won't then just turn and fucking scrape 300 blog posts written pretty much by probably AI themselves too, about, oh, hey, here's how you make money. Go do random surveys on websites. You know, go download apps and get points towards fucking gift cards. And they'll promote this as if it's like some sort of get-rich money scheme where you just ask ChatGPT one magic prompt and it just fucking prints you money from there. You know, it prints you money from there. Now, obviously, that's not really how anything works. That's not how the world works in general for most people, for most ways. Now, is there the, you know, I guess outlier or exception to the rule who probably could use ChatGPT, mastermind a couple prompts, and have a good business flow that made him fucking $5,000 a month? Absolutely. There's definitely people out there who could do it, but a lot of these people on Twitter who are already on this train of, I'm making $10,000 a month off ChatGPT, they're fucking lying to you. And that's because the true money makers, as really anything goes, are the ones that are really kind of discreet and unknown. Like, this kind of goes really for anything. I mean, if it's something that everybody knows about already, chances are the opportunity's gone, right? Like, I've been investing in stocks for years now, right? And I know a lot of you invest in the market. So let's take an example of like the whole GameStop fiasco from, you know, 2 years ago, whatever, right at this point. Now, that stock was worth like fucking $3 or something one day, right? It was on the brink of failure. The company was about to fall through the floor. And then some people on like Wall Street Bets on Reddit started realizing that they could just fucking like basically inverse the course of the shorts against the stock, and they could just fucking squeeze the price of it as high as they wanted to, because all the people who put in, you know, the like fucking bear like forecasts, you know, put their puts and whatnot on it, basically betting against the stock, they had to buy those shares back regardless. But of course, you know, the people who really made money doing that whole GameStop fiasco, it wasn't little Billy who opened up Twitter the next day when GameStop was worth fucking $130. It wasn't him when he went in and started buying GameStop stock hoping it hit 200. It was the guys who knew about the opportunity beforehand, who had access to the whole blueprint of what was going on when it was worth pennies on the dollar pretty much, right? When it was worth $3 a share. When they bought 80,000 shares and then fucking flipped them for $7 million, right? Like those are the guys who made the money. It really all resorts back to a saying, the early bird catches the worm. So a lot of the people who've already made money in artificial intelligence, they're people who got to the fucking door first. They're people who were already on the wave. They already thought they knew the potential, and they, I guess, took the risk and they got the reward. But now I feel like we're in that kind of like lulling moment, that dull moment in between the big peaks or whatever, because ultimately there will be another one of these massive jumps where people can get into AI. It becomes way more accessible. You can make money doing it, right? Like that is inevitable. But I don't think we're currently in that time period unless you're using artificial intelligence as a tool to actually do something else. Now that's the problem. Like a lot of people, they think that ChatGPT is like the answer to everything. They can just type in and, say, what is the meaning of life? And it'll just print the result accurately. People don't realize, I feel like, that these things still have limitations. There's still concerns and whatnot with the technology. And ultimately, as a whole industry, artificial intelligence is still waiting for massive improvements in quality. Now, there are a ton of AI, once again, that come out every day. They're doing new things. Maybe they're better than their competitors. They provide more functionality. They fix a lot of issues. Even the artificial intelligences like ChatGPT that we already know about, they're still also releasing updates and constantly working on the product to better it. But before it actually reaches, I feel like, a point of relative stability, which I think is still a few more years away, people need to realize what exactly is happening. Now, is this some sort of evil technology that is taking over everyone's lives? Who really knows? I mean, realistically, we're not far along enough in this whole thing, right? Like, we haven't rode enough of the roller coaster to really know what to expect. But that's part of really any fledgling industry as it's starting. I mean, no one knew where the automobile was going to go, or the home computer, or the internet. No one knew where any of this shit was going to go. And of course, the legacies of these inventions and these developments came after the fact, when people continued to perfect it in different ways and introduce new revolutionary concepts. We got to remember, artificial intelligence commercially has only really been available now for a couple years. In 10 years, artificial intelligence will be in a completely different realm of existence than it currently is. And I think that will be a good thing for a lot of reasons, I mean, there's going to be a ton of new doors opened up for people that they didn't know were currently possible, right? Like, there will be a day where artificial intelligence will make content creation easier, right? Depending on how you want to go. Now, that kind of makes me want to circle to this Quebblecop point a little bit, right? I've already made 3 videos talking about this, so I don't want to focus on it too much. But the issue with a lot of like YouTube content creators right now is they're seeing the artificial intelligence boom. They're seeing the capabilities. Oh, it can do this. It can help me do that, right? And I feel like we're going to start seeing people using AI for the wrong reasons. Once again, instead of using it as a tool to accomplish something and using it as a method to build a desired outcome by actually using the technology to get to that, there's now going to be a lot of people, and we already see it, a lot of people who are going to essentially try to make the AI do all the work and do the whole process for them, because it's a robot, and if it has to do anything I tell it to do, right? So if I give it the fucking robot a prompt, it has to listen, right? It has to edit my video for me or whatever, right? And that is going to have some pretty bad consequences, I feel like, for content creators. I mean, even with like that Quebblecop situation, you already see it. I mean, the video dislikes are like 10 times higher than the likes. The comments are just completely ethering him for making the decision, right? Now, do I have a problem with AI content creation? Not inherently. If you can use AI to make good content and you can actually find a way to strike a healthy balance between, this being a message and a vessel of the creator and being assisted by AI, I have no problem with that. I mean, I've used artificial intelligence with my own content. That'd be hypocritical for me to say otherwise. But there's a massive difference between using these AI tools like Rimini Web to, help your thumbnails pop a little more, or using 11 Labs to generate goofy, wacky voices to make funny videos. There's a difference between things like that and then just outright replacing everything about the content that made it yours with some fucking robot that you're giving prompts that's not doing the same thing. It's not making the same content. People don't don't like that ultimately, and can you really blame them, right? It's not the same thing. And I don't want it to get to the point where people think that it's the same thing and they continue to try and push this kind of shit when ultimately no one really wants YouTube or these other places to go down that route. And so we're seeing a world where people are afraid that AI is going to take over their favorite content creators. They're afraid that AI is going to take the jobs away from independent artists, things like this. I can understand why there's a lot of hate and disdain around artificial intelligence, but I feel like while there's a lot of very justified and well thought dislike and critique, I guess, of the AI industry, there's also a ton of people who hate it for the sake of hating it. There's a lot of people out there who they, I guess, see negative tweets or negative videos, negative news articles, things like that about artificial intelligence, and they allow that to dictate their entire opinion of what it is, which isn't healthy. That's not a good idea, and that's not even just with AI, that's just for anything, right? Like, you need to try and, I feel like see both sides in things. You need to try and get all of the context and actually get everything you can informed to you so you can make the best decisions possible. Now, do I want to live in a world where everything is created by AI? Absolutely not. I don't think anyone does, but I think just kind of ignorantly overlooking all of the good that it can do for people and in multiple different industries as well would just be foolish in general. It really, I think, is going to depend a lot on how humanity decides to implement this technology. Now, can people in their everyday lives use AI? Absolutely. For instance, one idea you could do, I guess, like, fuck it, use ChatGPT. Hey, I'm struggling with meal planning this week. I don't know what recipes I want to cook. Well, go ahead and give ChatGPT a prompt and, add some of your favorite foods in there, your favorite cuisines, some ingredients you have, things like that, and it'll come up with recipes for you, or like things like that. I feel like that's where a lot of artificial intelligence and whatnot will have the most impact and use for everyday people. When people learn how to use technology like this for not the sake of monetizing something, I think that's when you really start to appreciate it more. If you just kind of doodle or sketch or fuck off with, Dolly, which is like ChatGPT's image creating AI software, and you just make your cool little artworks or whatever with it, and you just save them and make them your fucking background or wallpaper, I feel like you're going to have a lot different of an opinion on artificial intelligence than somebody who is trying to make $5,000 a week manipulating artificial intelligence into doing the hard work for them. So ultimately, I think it really comes down to a lot of different factors, and people don't realize that. And I get it, it's cool to get on Twitter and just shit on things for the sake of shitting on things. That's what Twitter does. Somebody could find the cure for cancer and people would be lambasting them on Twitter and shitting on them and making a big deal about it, right? Like, that's how Twitter is. But I feel like the way things are going with AI, it's a lot more about what can we do to monetize it, and it's a lot less about how can we use this technology to actually benefit people in their everyday lives, and that's the issue. So anyway, that's really it for this episode of Optimus Weekly, guys. Thank you all for watching once again. Next week, I do anticipate on having this across several platforms, so you guys aren't just kind of, I guess, confined to YouTube. I know a lot of you, if you're in the car or you're at the gym, whatever it is that you might be doing, you don't really want to sit there with YouTube open on your phone. I get it. So I'm going to be working on getting this place established across the board. Going to be trying to get some guests lined up for the next few episodes as well. And of course, remember to check out Astral's Edge Volume 1 down below, my new novelette series. I will be continuing that as well. And of course, the next episode of Optimus Weekly will be coming out next Sunday. If you are a fan of Optimus Weekly and you would like to see episodes one day early, you can get access to every new episode of Optimus Weekly one day earlier on Saturdays as a member of Watch Optimus channel memberships. Once again, you can check that out down below. I also do exclusive videos. And with that being said, thank you guys for tuning in. And until my next episode, this is Optimus, talking about artificial intelligence and signing out.